They pass laws, we fund the laws. So having said that, thank you for allowing me to participate with this today. Senator Blackburn is our leader in the Senate, and I really appreciate the fact that everyone here has their heart right to do the right thing. We need to combat that. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you.
Cracking down and arresting traffickers, rescuing victims. What could we do policy-wise better to help efforts like that of Mission America and the rescue and intervention operations happening across the country?
Well, thank you, Nilsa. The start, and I'll use the state as the starting point. Of course, I'm from Tennessee as well. I'm based in Franklin, Tennessee. We are very grateful from our position that we have warriors up here on this hill that are actually helping us, like Congressman Fleischmann, Congressman Green, of course, Senator Blackburn, and you know, I'm very grateful to meet you today. The doors have been opened in the fight up here on this hill, at least in conversation and theory, and how we can combat this from a federal level. But from the state level, we've been very active in the last state session in the state of Tennessee with my partner, with Faith and Freedom of Tennessee, Faith and Freedom Coalition of Tennessee, which I'm the chairman of the board. The team has been very fortunate to have a lot of help in our leadership in the state of Tennessee on this fight. We were very successful in the last session, and we have a slate of massive legislation that we're getting ready to launch in the next session that'll start in January. But to that point, fund, but you have to create, okay? And you have to find new theories or new ways of attacking this monster. And we are doing that with some things we're bringing to the table with our state as far as who is in power, how to put the DAs on the hot seat.
When you say DAs, for those who district attorneys.
I apologize. You know, they are also underfunded. Okay, so not really, unfortunately, the fight against money comes down to money. It really does. And these organizations, when I first started in 2016, human trafficking was a $30 billion industry around the globe. And now it's a $150 billion industry around the globe. And when you think about that, they have more money and they have more resources than we do to fight them. Okay? That's a big deal. So first and foremost, you create funding. You have fiscal notes that get attached to legislation that give you more manpower on the street, okay? Task force, the money for awareness, the money for training for law enforcement, and that needs to not only work at the state levels, but I believe that should work at the federal level as well. It's a little hard to get things done up here, I know, because we're very fortunate. We're in a supermajority, so we get a lot more things our way. But the funding is a huge part of it, and new laws that not only increase the penalties for the pimps, lack of a better term, or the facilitators, or the people that run these organizations, and cut it off at the head, but also the punishment for the Johns, the exposure for the people. If you get rid of the demand, you get rid of the supply. And I know that's been touted. You know, I mentioned last night in the last panel, I spent 6 years in Underground Railroad, so I'm very familiar with how Tim speaks about the things he speaks about. And it's one of his biggest things that he talks about is get rid of the demand and you can get rid of the supply. Unfortunately, with the world that we live in, and this was brought up the other night, this thing right here is access to everything you need in the world. Not only the porn that reprograms the brain, but also the way they use this tool right here to not only groom and steal your children, but to you know, advertise. There's places you can go on your phone or your tablet that you can just order these things online. These poor children online, and there's no fight against that. Now, Senator Blackburn was very part of getting rid of Backpage a couple years ago. Unfortunately, they found another way to turn around and create a new Walmart for children, which is horrible. So it's all about crushing, you know, not only the ones on the street, but shutting down the things that bring this to the world. And that is through policy, whether it be at the federal level, the state level. I would like to take what we are being fortunate enough to do in the state of Tennessee and replicate that throughout the state, throughout the country. Because it all starts with policy, it all starts with good law enforcement agents that are capable of doing their jobs. And it also starts with putting the heat on the district attorneys to make them prosecute these people, giving them, I mean, in the state of Tennessee, we actually have, every DA in the state of Tennessee has the opportunity to have a task force on trafficking.
Wow.
They just don't have the funding.
Okay.
So we're working on that, okay? But again, at the national level, you have to be able to find the money to put into a fight like this. Now, there was a time, not too long back, that we actually had a task force, a federal task force, that was starting to gain great momentum, and unfortunately, it was kind of stifled as we were gaining momentum, and the problem has grown. So, I mean,
say that there is a force in this world that is trying to protect a very, very high-end circle of consumers in this demand for child sex trafficking, and it's tragic. So we definitely need to pray and continue to advocate for justice, and for the consumer side to experience justice, for them to experience the boots kicking down their front door, right? And pulling out the handcuffs. And talking about handcuffs, we have a wonderful friend here on the panel, Raúl López, who's involved in Men of Valor Prison Ministries. He's their executive director. And just as we need to pray for God to heal the victims, say that there is a force in this world that is trying to protect a very, very high-end circle of consumers in this demand for child sex trafficking, and it's tragic. So we definitely need to pray and continue to advocate for justice, and for the consumer side to experience justice, for them to experience the boots kicking down their front door, right? And pulling out the handcuffs. And talking about handcuffs, we have a wonderful friend here on the panel, Raúl López, who's involved in Men of Valor Prison Ministries. He's their executive director. And just as we need to pray for God to heal the victims, God heals the aggressors. That they can be, I mean, we've seen even in the Bible, men like Saul, who was a persecutor of the church, someone who wanted to exterminate, push a genocide on those who believed in Christ, had an encounter with God, and became the biggest proponent for the gospel of Jesus Christ. So can God turn the life of a predator into the voice in support of the victims and be a force for good? Is that possible in this world? Well, Men of Valor is one of those ministries that have time and time again revealed to the state of Tennessee and the nation that 97% of men and 97% of the incarcerated will become your neighbor because they will fulfill their sentence and return to society. But they have proven that you can influence the kind of neighbor they become if you start mentoring them on the inside. If we can send in prison ministers and people that will share with them the truth that can set them free. So tell us a little bit about what Men of Valor does and how you help with the re-entry process.
Thank you, Nilsa. I really appreciate that. It's an honor to be in front of this group. I have been totally amazed at the last couple of days of the human trafficking and all that. Men of Valor, we're the only statewide prison. We're in every prison in the state of Tennessee. And we also provide re-entry services in Knoxville and in Nashville, and hopefully soon in Chattanooga. But what it is basically Jesus first. That's our model. You got to come to know the Lord. We accept it. We basically mentor them with biblical values, and then we provide mentorship where people can come and mentor them and walk alongside with them and work along with their struggles. After that, after they get out of prison, we have a year-long program in both facilities, 90 in Nashville and 30 in Knoxville. And in that year program, we provide jobs, license, mentorship, job readiness programs, the whole gamut, financial literacy. Some of them go on to felon-friendly education like HVAC, welding, different jobs that they can actually get their career jobs. in the process. So it's an all-encompassing thing, and it's, you know, I'll tell you one thing, if a man is in prison, there's a 70% chance that their child will end up in prison. So it's a revolving door. So we try to end that cycle. So that's been a battle. We've been around for 25 years. Our recidivism rate, people that return to prison, is less than 15%. Our state is about 50%. So basically, it's a flip of the coin. And, you know, okay, you say lock them up and put them in there, but there's one thing that people don't talk about is the corruption inside the prison. Sex trafficking, human trafficking does not stop once they're in prison. They're still organizing that. And you were talking about funding. Our guards in the prison system make nothing. I mean, they're like $30,000 to $50,000 a year. And the gangs inside the prisons run the prisons. And they bribe the guards to allow them to continue the corruption of human trafficking, of drug abuse and drug things. And that needs to be stopped inside the prison. And they also threaten the guards' families outside if they don't cooperate. So there's a whole corruption system inside the prison. And a lot of us think, okay, once we lock them up for 20, 30 years, that's it. No, they're still organizing that. So we need to tighten up inside the prisons, the gangs. I was recruited in a gang when I was 12 years old. And that ruined my family. And it ruins a lot of Latino families, especially in the African American community too. Because once they got you inside the gangs, they got you, the whole family. And of course, that's part of the revenue stream that helps support illegal immigration and all that brings in the human trafficking. Nothing. And it's a very stressful job, but yet they're constantly being bribed, there's money under the table, all kinds of things to keep it going. And that needs to stop.
Now, the subject of human trafficking really hits home to you because you adopted daughters from Colombia.
Yeah, from Colombia.
And you then, once, I think Maria, right? I think once she became an adult or older, that's when she started opening up that she too was a victim of human trafficking. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'll try because I'll probably get a little emotional. But yeah, she was involved. Her mom was a prostitute, and she got coerced into, as a little girl, into sex trafficking at a very young age. I didn't even know about it for years, like I said, until she was adult. We adopted her and her sister from an orphanage in Bogota, and they were teenagers at the time. And of course, a lot of trauma and a lot of anxiety, so they never told us about it. But she's now starting to come out in Bogota. She's still very, very tough on her, but yeah, it was awful. So obviously, this is dear to our heart. Besides Men of Valor, I also have another organization which Nilsa is involved too. It's called Latinos for Tennessee, and we're striving hard against human trafficking and sex trafficking. And she's now starting to be a spokesperson for that, so she's coming out. But obviously affected her life tremendously, and pushed our family.
So when you adopted your daughter, you did not know that
was about to turn 16, and you know, at 16, and at least our understanding in Colombia, they were about to release her with no job skills, no nothing, to the streets of Colombia. So you can imagine what would have happened there with her sister.
Wow. Well,
Which she is now a Marine, and she lives here in Baltimore, and very successful, and her husband is a retired Marine too, and there's both.
Just they don't Latino. I look like a little Ringo. I'm going to do this in English because it's just going to be clear, but I do speak Spanish and Portuguese and a couple other languages, so I'm really honored to be here, and thank you, Rosie, for the invitation. And I want to address what you just said. You know, public servants, shut it down. Shut down the porn industry. Don't help us. Shut it down. There's a side of Rose Warrior, and 2 out of the 4 Frontera states, she got all brothels and all strip clubs gone. It's possible. It's possible. We need to shut it down. That is a way to where there's this psyops, something that happens to the brains of those that are subjected to porn, where women and kids become objectified. And the moment that they become objects, they become valuable to somebody that they can sell because someone else is going to buy an object. And we need to shut it down. And that's any foreign delegates that are in here, shut it down. American, shut it down. We chose not to work with the government. We chose to self-fund, so we didn't have to subject ourselves to politics, so that we don't have to subject ourselves to bureaucracy, because kids' lives are way more valuable than a vote. But make no mistake, we're praying. Every single person inside Untrafficked has been called by God in order to be able to serve in both a supernatural and international way. And everywhere that we go, we have victory. Why? Because it's His victory, not ours. We will steamroll. I don't care if it's politicians. We are going to abide by the laws of the United States of America, because we are an organization that will do so. But we will steamroll anybody who's breaking the law. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's a president of a country, our own country. I don't care if it's a prime minister. I don't care if it's a king. We are here, called by God, over the governments in order to be able to protect and preserve the lives of children, and then rescue and see to it that they are restored. So, Untrafficked, we've been around for about 3.5 years. We're run by a seasoned team of business executives. We don't really come from the nonprofit space, but we have a really deep team in intelligence as well as special forces. And so everything that we do, one of the reasons why America has been so successful at war is because we send in intelligence first, we send in special operations second, and then if we need to, we'll send in one of the big four to be able to clean up and establish a victory. And so the way that we operate is the same way. We use deep intelligence in order to be able to prepare ourselves for every single mission that's out there. And then we use technology in order to be able to back that up so that we can ensure victory. We haven't rescued 10,000 kids yet, but we have started about 1.5 years ago, started our intervention division, and we've rescued 277 with 100%. So if we get a crisis call, we're going to win. We're not going to stop until we win. We have the ability to be able to send an intelligence pack to law enforcement and then do real-time tracking, and we will not stop until we win, until the perpetrator's arrested, and then that kid, most of the time it's a girl, but sometimes it's a boy as well, goes into a care facility, gets reacquainted with their family if there's no threat there. And then we insulate that process through whatever means that we can in order to be able to see them to success. And so, so that's really our intervention division, but we have an awareness division. 30 million people have seen our video called I Didn't Know, because most parents just have no idea. And it's about an 11-year-old girl that gets trafficked, and she gets rescued and restored. And it's 1 minute and 47 seconds. You can go onto our website and look at that. It's Untrafficked. Your child getting invited to go down to the park to go play Pokemon Go, or going to the arcade to play a video game because somebody in the chat room invited them to go play in a video game. They're not friends. They are grooming our kids.
Yes.
They're grooming our children, and we need to intervene. And this teaches you how to do this in a fun and creative way, to where it's not just scary about anti-trafficking, but we can actually get in and celebrate victory through this program that's here. So thank you.
Thank you.
School faculty involved in sex-related crimes with minors. In just the year 2022 here in America, 350 cases, and 350 cases that were public. Not the one, there's a lot that didn't go public. So the number could even be higher than 350 across the nation. So parents are now seeing, they're playing connect the dots. And now they're seeing there's a connection between the radical sex education that's being given in the public school system to the grooming process. And because they're being so engulfed in sexual conversations at such an early stage, now we're finding out that there are teachers in the public school system who are abusing their own students, and they are getting arrested here in America. So grooming is happening in the classroom, and just as a closing statement, and I'll do this with Congressman Fleischmann, what else can we do to combat the grooming that's happening in the public school classroom?
The next one question, the way that we are structured in our country, for those of us who are from other countries visiting today, is we have local, state, and federal governments. I'm at the federal level, as is Senator Blackburn. Constitutionally, and this is where our state in Tennessee handles most of the education. And the closer you get to the people, local government, state government, I think is easier and better to combat this. Your local DAs, your local law enforcement. And from our level, we do need to put dollars into programs and get them into these programs so that we can combat this. But it just goes back to staying active in your communities. When you see evil, call it out as evil and work against it. And it's important who you elect to your local school boards. That right to vote is so important. Hold the candidates accountable for the vote. Look at my voting record where you see, gee whiz, we have, and any of my colleagues on either side, when you have an opportunity to vote and make that statement, every time I vote, I make a statement for about 760,000 East Tennesseans. So that is something as citizens we need to work together.